Good evening, Californians. It's Friday night, the 23rd of June, 2021. And this is Red Star Report. Voices for the California Nation. So, is the delusional Biden honeymoon period over yet? Do you think those staunch California progressives and supporters of the Democratic Party, who after Biden won back in November, arrogantly gave me the old talk to the hand as they told me that California independence was no longer a thing, you think they're ready to admit they were wrong yet? Or do you think they're going to act like good little Americans at the end of all this? Dismiss the whole ugly fascism thing as too hard, saying, I'm just not really into politics, as they go shopping and pretend to ignore the minor inconvenience of the imminent collapse of American democracy. Turn a strength-through-joy-style blind eye to the nightmare this new version of the United States will be preparing for those people that conservatives always scapegoated and pretend that American nouveau fascism and oligarchy aren't really all that bad once you get used to it. Because really, welcome, my fellow Californians, to Weimar America. In case you're keeping score, as the price of everything continues to rise in America, we're quietly choosing up sides and buying record numbers of assault weapons, as record climate-driven heat waves punish the ever-expanding numbers of homeless people. But, oh, by the way, just FYI, in case you think this homelessness thing is just a California problem or a New York problem, Texas and Florida are number 3 and number 4 on the homeless hit parade, and though they go unreported largely, their rising numbers are only a step behind California and New York, so sorry to burst that bubble. Not sorry. Also, this is Flat Wages team up with the lifting of eviction moratoriums across the United States, and heavily armed red state rubes quote QAnon fantasies as they refuse to get vaccinated to finally stop a pandemic that everyone seems to forget has already killed over 500,000 Americans, and actually is on its way to probably killing 750,000 Americans. But hey, good news. We still have that Senate filibuster, right? Nothing to see here, folks. Business as usual. Our esteemed federal government officials this week strapped on their big floppy shoes and rubber noses to parade out of their ridiculously small partisan clown cars and pop each other's balloon animal efforts at legislation while singing God Bless America with failed incremental changes and useless symbolic gestures for all. Yay. It's been a year and a half since the world witnessed the murder of George Floyd, and millions took to the streets to protest for reform. H.R. 7120, the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act of 2020, unfortunately, though, has been stalled in the Senate for the past 6 months. Surprised? Considering the hair on fire levels of right-wing America pushback on even examining systemic racism or even discussing this critical race theory that they're very upset about, added to the no action schedule this session on H.R. 7120. Also, with 60 votes required for Senate passage anyway, predictions are this legislation is dead on arrival. So much for any American civil rights or social justice, and even the hope for incremental change or symbolic gestures are fading away in the face of fresh outrages stealing new news headlines. Here, Californians suffer through what scientists are calling a 20-year drought, and With fire season just around the corner, conservative Senate Democrats teamed up with moderate Republicans on an infrastructure bill that will completely fail to meet California's infrastructure climate needs. In fact, the gutless bipartisan compromise on infrastructure cuts Biden's $1.2 trillion infrastructure plan down to just $580 billion by gutting most spending on climate change-based infrastructure, as it removed legislation to control carbon and methane levels. Just to be clear about priorities, these are the same senators recently who cakewalked authorization for spending $400 billion to buy the engineering failure F-35 fighter jet that still doesn't work. The truth is, this shiny political feel-good bipartisan infrastructure proposal simply seems to pretend that jobs in red states are the issue, and the climate crisis doesn't actually exist, in order to justify a shitty bill that won't get it done, but can celebrate some kumbaya bipartisanship, which is a tragedy for California's little drought and wildfire problem, right? Because with this centrist Democrats not from California just threw away the last chance America probably had to avoid the worst case climate change scenarios, for reasons nobody in their right mind can understand. They did it to get a deal with the devil, compromise to work with private, possibly fossil fuel companies that won't really fix anything, but will still end all environmental-based infrastructure work Congress does this session. Right? No one sees this as madness. So, now, in what is becoming a running joke, on Tuesday, Republicans predictably handed Senate Democrats their collective asses. Again. Thank you, sir. May I have another? Senate Republicans blocked and, for all intents and purposes, killed H.R. 1/S1, the For the People Voting Rights Bill, using the filibuster just as they've been threatening to do for weeks. All this aided and abetted by Democratic conservatives, led by hillbilly Senator Joe Manchin of West Virginia and walking blonde Joe Kirsten Sinema of Arizona, who we can only guess were in a hurry for some reason to drop to their knees, present their little rusty sheriff badges to surging Republican opposition, and backdoor themselves some more bipartisanship to defend the Jim Crow-era Senate filibuster rule instead of America's dying democracy, leaving Senate Democrats with yet another unforced error, leading to another inexplicably routine majority defeat, while ending any real hope for a federal path forward to stop the fascist power grab of gerrymandering and voter restriction laws goose-step marching their way to victory in Republican-led Senate or state houses across the country. At this point, Californians can only watch helplessly now in a United States where the grand experiment in one-person, one-vote democracy has now failed, especially in its final test to defend itself, while people in states California can't vote for game the system to impose white minority rule and oligarchy on what will be the United States in name only in a mere 2 election cycles. None of this even talks about the House or the Senate in their recent failures to launch a full congressional investigation on the January 6th Capitol riots, or even start a commission to evaluate Medicare for all, look for any solution to America's runaway gun violence problems, write any further legislation to raise the minimum wage, or address America's homeless crisis, or figure out a way to finally end the inhumane treatment of immigrants at America's southern border. For Californians, you got to ask yourself, if this is the best that can get done, no matter who controls the federal legislature for the foreseeable future, can California survive in this new United States, expecting nothing to ever improve? Really? So, gotta ask again, can we take off the Biden rose-colored glasses now? Is your American honeymoon over? Can we get back to talking about California independence? Or do you want to stick around a little longer and maybe rearrange those deck chairs on the U.S. Titanic again and again and again? Really? California independence or American submission. Game over. And now we have a very gleeful activism in action with Shankar Singham. Over to you, Shankar.
Singham here amidst a COVID California. What? No. Fuck this thing. We are done with COVID. Finally, we are done. Thank God. Well, now there's some of us that don't want to get the vaccine. I immediately suggest you all leave the state immediately because the vaccine, I got vaccinated. I know everybody that I know, in fact, got vaccinated. Everybody around me's got vaccinated, but still, when I'm walking around, I see people wearing masks still. And you just have to look at them like, what the fuck is your problem, right? Well, there's another variant going around, so if anybody's going to get it, it's going to be them. And that's who I'm going to talk about right now, the stupid. So let's get into that discussion real quick. So, the news. California defies doom with number one U.S. economy. Well, it's actually number one U.S. economy, but it's actually number two economy in the world. China has a little bit of a growth rate that's a little bit better than ours. I think we're growing at about 6 to 7%. China is at 8-9% growth, right? And well, they have a massive labor market. So, and why am I comparing us to China instead of the U.S. like this article is doing? Because this is no surprise to anybody in the independence movement. California has always dominated the U.S. in every measure of a variable from economy to culture. We're just a dominant economic cultural powerhouse that defines the world global culture. We just do that here in the state, and we want everybody in the world to come here and experience what's up in California. And in fact, the only people that don't like us seem to be the rest of the United States. So let's carry on with that discussion. So how have they been hampering us? They've been hampering us throughout COVID. Let's just take the time period from COVID and see how they've been hampering us. So a few months ago, there was an article written about, a few articles. I mean, it was big news. It was all over. Every major network covered it. In fact, how many people were leaving California, right? Remember that? Remember how they said droves and droves of people were leaving California? Well, the Public Policy Institute did a research on who was leaving California. So it turns out that people with a college degree tend to stay in California. People without college degrees were leaving California. So much so that from 2010 to 2014, 311,000 people left California without a college degree. And now in 2015 to 2019, it's gone up to 465,000 people without a college degree left California. Now, who's coming to California? That's the next thing. So we lost 300 and 500,000 people respectively within those years. Well, we got back a slightly less amount of people coming in, but guess what? These were high income earners with a college degree. So we actually exported our stupid and got back some college grads who had some earning potential, which explains everything with the United States and why they are the way they are and why we are the way we are. So we do attract the best here, which again makes us a global cultural phenom. I don't know how to else explain it. And I'll be doing an interview with a Native American who says even back thousands of years ago, this area, this land was the same way. It just attracted the best of best. So we're exporting our stupid to the United States. Fine. You want to leave California? Bye-bye. Don't let the sun chop your ass on the way out. So what else do they say about us? Well, that we're heavily taxed. Yeah, we are taxed a lot. We have high taxes here, but gee, that seemed to have gone back to our infrastructure. And most of the money actually went to the United States to spend on states like Georgia and Alabama and Mississippi, which was a giant waste of time, apparently, because they are just do-nothing states. What else do they say about us? Let's see here. Oh yeah, Mr. Elon Musk decided to leave us. Bye-bye. I know several people that worked for Tesla, and believe me, you guys are all excited about Tesla coming to Texas. You guys are all go fill out that application and go get ready to go work for Mr. Musk. Mr. Musk is a great boss, let me tell you. Not. Absolutely not. Dude, listen, Tesla is the worst place to work for. I haven't worked there. I know three friends of mine that have. Sucked. All right? The pay is shit. All right? Expect that. Why did he leave? He didn't want to meet California regs on safety regs for the workers. It just got too expensive to make those upgrades in the facility. So he went to Texas. Yay. Let's talk about Texas. Texas coming over here, stealing all our trying to coerce our businesses and influence our residents to come live over in Texas. Well, it turns out that you actually pay more taxes in Texas than you do in California. Yeah, you have no state income tax, but guess what? They make that difference up in everything else that you do. Driving, buying clothes, buying food, all that shit's taxed so high that you end up paying more in taxes to the state than you would over here in California. Fine, that's no big deal. You don't care about that. Hey, there's maybe no traffic or whatnot, right? And the food is probably better. You like barbecue and shit, right? Okay, great. I'm glad that makes up for the fact that you pay way more taxes in Texas. And the weather is so nice there, isn't it? Oh, is it cold or is it hot? Gee, this fluctuating weather really does bug. In fact, let's talk about another way. Not only how Texas got fucked by the fluctuating weather, but how we got fucked too. Because the Fed comes in and Donald Trump tried to take away our emission standards on our vehicles because he didn't like the fact that we don't like pollution. Fuck you, Trump, and fuck you, Fed. You're not going to do that. We have those standards set in place for a reason. We care about the climate. We want to fundamentally try to make a change in global warming. You all in the United States don't believe that. The rest of the world believes in global warming and man-made climate change. The United States does not believe that. California does. The United States doesn't. Californians, do you see how I'm having trouble understanding how you can still relate yourself as being an American? So, we set our standards up high just to have the U.S. fuck it all off. And now our weather is fucking so severe. It's hotter than shit during the summer and it's colder than shit in the winter. So much so, it was so cold, in fact, in Texas, that the pipes froze because you have no regulation or standards in your construction over there. And you guys didn't care to make the proper upgrades to keep with the weather, like we do here in California. The strictest regulations ever. And what happened in turn? Well, all your residents got a nice $9,000 bill for using electricity during the winter. And now it's so hot in Texas, they've asked there's not enough energy being produced. They've asked their residents to keep the temperature at 76 or 77 degrees during the day and 82 degrees at night. Now, I don't know who the fuck sleeps at 82 degrees at night. That's just ridiculous. Texas, you're a joke. You're a fucking joke. You're the biggest joke out there. It's such comedy. You want all our business. You want all our people. You can't handle it, Texas. You have a history of that. You have just a fucking embarrassing history of that. So, there's Texas with that. People leaving the state. Go, bye, have a nice day. You go ahead and leave the state. Now, the Republicans out there are also trying to recall our governor. Fine. We'll waste another $2 million and have that election go by because we have the number one economy in the United States, apparently, which is actually not that big of a deal. I mean, you have the number one economy compared to the rest of the states. That's like saying, you're like the you're on the 8-year-olds baseball team, but you're 15 years old. Like, we're the 15-year-olds playing with a bunch of 8-year-olds on the baseball team. We're slugging it out of the park the whole time. Big fucking deal. It's kind of boring now, Californians need to, stretching its wings. Needs to stand up and walk like an adult instead of down there hunkering with the kids. I mean, Californians, can you understand where I'm coming from with this? We just need to grow. And you know what? We can help the United States if we are independent and able to do things on our own. Texas, there's one Planned Parenthood in the whole state. Those policies that the United States adopts, those will never happen here. A woman will always have a right to choose. You will always have the right to marry whoever you want. We are a sanctuary state. That's another one. I forgot about the sanctuary state one. So it turns out at the border, the biggest migration occurred right after Donald Trump left office because they could finally. They weren't scared. And who can blame them? The United States policies on South America and Central America have caused this migration to occur. And you ask Venezuela, ask Brazil, who's on ethanol instead of fuel because they don't want to deal with the petrodollar. So you have this huge migration of kids being separated at the border by the United States Customs Enforcement. We got about 1,500 kids here in Long Beach. Another group of 1,500 stayed in Texas. Another group of 1,500 went to New York. Now, here in Long Beach, the citizens of Long Beach, the jewel of California, Long Beach, reunited about all those kids back with their families, took the due diligence and time to get on the phone and call families and reunited those kids. There's only less than 100 kids left at the facility here in Long Beach. And that's going to be taken care of before August when they were planning to house the 1,500 kids in Pomona. That's not going to happen anymore. They're going to find homes for those kids. Now, we have done that. Texas? Nope. Those 1,500 kids are still at that facility. That facility is making money because it's privately owned. New York, same thing. Nothing's happened with that facility over there. Those kids are still in there. And that's because we are a sanctuary state. In the true meaning of the word. The United States is not. Do I even have to get into what they're doing in Congress right now about voting rights? The filibuster, the $1 trillion stimulus package, taxing the wealthy, climate change, student debt forgiveness. Do I really have to go into all that? Because we know where we stand on that. And the only thing stopping us is the United States right now. Joe Biden is no different than Donald Trump, except he knows how to keep his mouth shut and doesn't tweet stupid shit. But other than that, folks, if you have all your shekels on under with Biden, you got to wake up. Look who his vice president is. Kamala the cop. That's what we call Kamala Harris here. We hate her. She is a vindictive, conniving bitch. And then she's the vice president of the United States. Kamala the cop. Fake minority. And now you have Obama coming out that now he's for voter ID? What the fuck? They kowtow to the Republicans when they don't need to because they have no spine. They don't care about you. Anyways, that's my rant for today. We're bouncing back again after COVID. Love your state. Love your home. That's my buddy. I gotta go. Hal, back to you, man.
Thank you, Shankar. Let's get to talking points. Tonight on Talking Points, we look at one of the most asked of our California independents frequently asked questions. Question goes, if California seceded, what would California do for a military? The short answer is California would spend 1 to 2% of our GDP on defense like Canada or Mexico does. That's instead of the 10% America does now, but before I go into those numbers, I need to state the obvious differences for a moment. Talking point. Californians have no reason to live in fear. The world hates America, not California. California has no U.S.-style imperial ambitions and is generally liked and respected globally, so a new nation of California has no natural or built-in enemies, unless you count Texas. A nation of California would most likely be a peaceful and neutral country, which is a practical political stance for an instant G8 member nation looking to trade globally. Geographically speaking, California is nowhere near the world's global hotspots, so it's not like we're going to be drawn into a conflict anytime immediate. And the United States, Mexico, and Canada will be our nearest international neighbors, and we're all likely to remain trading partners. And with Asian and Latin American goods coming through California ports and California goods sold worldwide, economic interests are more likely to be the international focus for California than military concerns. But with that in mind, nobody denies that building a California Defense Force will not be a big job. Just maybe not as difficult as many people may think. There are obvious moves to make that can help California build a military much faster and easier. First off, there are a large number of Californians serving currently in the U.S. military at about 13% of the total. At the time independence was declared, they'll find themselves serving in a now foreign military, and they should be incentivized through appeals to patriotism, promotion, pay, homeland service to voluntarily transfer to California's military. Or at least consider enlistment in California's Defense Force after the U.S. military tour is over, if they so desire. For California, the truth is that any reasonable number of these U.S. military veterans that accept this transfer would obviously help in rapidly forming a corps of experienced California military personnel in a very short period of time. Now, California does have a number of active U.S. military bases that the U.S. will likely want to maintain through negotiated treaty. But just like they do in other countries all around the world, I mean, this is not even unusual. California also has a few major decommissioned U.S. military bases that could be retasked for California's new defense force. Also, considering California is the home of defense-related companies like Northrop Grumman, Raytheon, and Lockheed Martin, and the major computer companies in the Silicon Valley, and unlike the U.S., California could also negotiate prices and shop globally on state-of-the-art military hardware, like most other countries do. So California will have a pretty state-of-the-art military. That's pretty likely. As far as military spending costs go, at 1 to 2% of GDP, depending on what Californians vote for as necessary, California would be spending between about 25 and 50 billion annually on our California Defense Forces. That's around $25 billion at 1% of California GDP, compared to Canada or Mexico's $7 to $10 billion that they spend. So even a small California military would be stronger than both of them combined. And if Californians choose to spend at 2% of GDP, or around $50 billion annually, that would put California's Defense Force at the same basic spending levels as England, Germany, Japan, even Russia, all of which are considered global powers. But the good news here is that either way, this would still be a big tax savings for Californians. Shockingly, our current military spending burden as part of the United States has Californians on the hook for $60 to $120 billion a year as part of America's average out-of-control $750 billion military spending budget. Any downside to the idea of this kind of California independent spending cut? I mean, no. And the best news of all, no more Californians dying in foreign lands halfway around the world, or being forced to kill people who are no threat to California just for the sake of imperial power, political ideology, or corporate profit. Does California independence actually need any better argument than that? I'll leave that for you to decide. Well, again, that's it for this week. Check out our website, www.redstarreport.com. Transcripts of talking points will be posted there. Also, be sure to subscribe to our Red Star Report YouTube channel. Go find our Red Star Report Facebook page, Twitter, Instagram, etc., etc. Because, and I'll keep saying it, if you want a real California Independence Movement media group, it's all about the algorithms. Our thanks to you and all our other Red Star Rebels for watching. Have a great weekend. We are Red Star Report.